GM, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Look, I wanted to put out a really quick video because obviously we've seen Bitcoin break down over the last couple of days. I'm asking the question again, is the bull run over? Is that all we're going to get? Is a cycle top in? Look, for full transparency and full disclosure, I have exited all of my crypto positions, everything I was holding in spot, all of my altcoin positions. The only thing I'm holding right here is a tiny bit of spot Bitcoin that I've been holding for a long time. I bought this many years ago, sort of vowed never to sell that. But I'm in no leverage positions. I'm not leverage long. I'm not leverage short. So I really have no bias on the market here. Obviously, I want to see Bitcoin do well. I want to be bullish on crypto. It's a lot easier to make money in a bull run when prices are all doing insane multiples. And with that said, the last couple of years have been fairly good for us. We've seen some nice multiples in Bitcoin, Solana. Obviously, Sui last year was a fantastic trade for us too. So there have been some good performers, but I just want to bring you my honest view, my honest outlook on how this market is. I'm not here to tell you, put your life savings into crypto. You're going to get rich. Buy every single dip. Cryptocurrency, like the behavior, the cycle of cryptocurrencies is for everything to pump for a limited amount of time, and then everything crashes. Minus 90, minus 95, in some cases minus 98%. Many cryptos over the next couple of years will go through that full cycle. A lot of them are currently quite inflated, and a lot of them are probably going to come back down to earth with a nasty bump over the next 18 to 24 months. So, let's just kind of set the scene there for what I'm about to say is that, it's I think it's irrational and irresponsible of me to be telling you to buy cryptocurrency here after we've seen this breakdown in Bitcoin. And what am I talking about? I'm really talking about this daily close here below this ascending trend line. So, I mean, when we saw that, that was a major warning sign for me on Monday's close, and since then we've obviously seen follow through yesterday, and yeah, now we are starting to come off again. So for me, this is a sort of high time frame structure break on Bitcoin. We've been in this range for multiple months, multiple weeks, and we've started to break below that range. So I'm reading stuff on X. You've got KOLs saying that yesterday they bought $1 million worth of crypto, obviously trying to get their followers and trying to get retail to do the same, to follow them into the market here. I think it is probably the worst possible time to be deploying large amounts of capital into crypto. I mean, just look at this chart, sort of longer term. We've come from here all the way up to here. We've just broken market structure, and you've really got influencers saying go all in, buy, seven. I've just bought seven figures. You've got other influencers talking about, how much money they've lost and how they're holding. It's all this information. I want to say disinformation, but call it this information they're feeding people to get them to hold and never ever sell their bags. It's like, if you dare question the narrative, if you dare sell a penny or a cent of your cryptocurrency, you're like the devil. You're awful. You're a bear. You should go to hell. You should die a slow death. It's just absolutely crazy. I mean, we have broken this long-term trend line, which I've been following. And for me, this was always a point of invalidation. If we start to close daily and weekly candles below this, then that was my invalidation. Obviously, we've still got about sort of 5 days left until the weekly close. So, of course, that's plenty of time for this to recover. The problem is we've actually got the monthly close coming up in just 2 days now. And if the monthly closes below this trend line, that will be a high time frame structure break. So it's very, very difficult and I think very irresponsible for me to tell you anything other than protect your capital in this situation. And whether that means, you know, taking money off the table, irrespective of whether you're in a profit or you're in a loss, it's at times like this you have to take those tough decisions. It's at times like this you have to be realistic about the price action and say nothing about this is bullish. Certainly in the short term, we could get a bounce here. We could go as high as 92,000. I think any rally here would likely result in some form of rejection and probably further downside. And look, I mean, I'll probably draw a path on the other chart, but where can we go down to? Well, obvious areas here. We've got these liquidity gaps down at around about sort of 85. There's another one down at about 80,000. So obviously the big round numbers there. We've got this ascending trend line. We've got 200-day moving average support. So, these are areas that we could look for bounces, that we probably do get short-term bounces from. But what we really want to see is our longer term, our more sort of weekly long-term support. And where's our long-term support coming in? Long-term support, we've got this here. This is our 50-week moving average, and it's currently coming in around about 75,000. Obviously, we last held this when we were going through the previous period of consolidation. So I don't think it's out of the question to suggest that we come down to this level, to 75,000. Obviously, we've got this trend line here as well from the summer, basically the summer lows, which we can draw along, which is also coming in just below that. Obviously, if we come down over the next couple of weeks, these levels here should start to converge. So, potentially we're looking at this sort of zone as well. And the other thing we can do, we can draw on our Fibonacci analysis as well, and we can see we've got the 618 just below that coming in around about 72,000. That also connects with our highs from the summer. So, potentially I think that is one area we could bounce. We've got a 50% level a little bit higher, so potentially we come down, tag that, we might wick into these levels here and then start to go. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment, bearing any significant, I mean, it would have to be an absolutely heroic recovery, and I just don't see a catalyst for that right now. For me, there's just no catalyst. There's no liquidity coming into the space. This has just been profit taking by smart money, by early investors, early hodlers. Obviously, their crypto, their altcoin bags are getting absolutely wrecked. We've seen Ethereum break down. We've seen Solana break down. Really, Bitcoin is now just following. I just think a lot of the Bitcoin holders are gonna, if you're in crypto and you're holding Bitcoin, you've probably also got some Ethereum, Solana. If you're seeing those bags dump, what's the only thing that's really up that you can really sell and take any profit on? It's Bitcoin. So, as much as people are saying that Bitcoin is different and it's separated as an asset class, it's not immune from these pullbacks and these dips and these drops. And yeah, we just have to be completely realistic about where the price can go in the short term. Obviously, the risk right now is of further downside. It's highly unlikely we just blast straight back up to 100K. Obviously, if that did happen, then we'd be looking for the next sort of low to obviously start to position in with a strict invalidation. Obviously, wanting to make sure that that isn't just going to be a lower high before more downside. But I think it's more likely that we probably come down lower first, put in a bit of a bottom, and then start to run to the upside again later on in the year. So that's what I'm thinking. It's interesting. This path that I had drawn is now off the table. So even though we have called this price action really well, and obviously we got this, run to the highs, and then we got the flush. This to me is not looking like a flush. Of course, we could still bounce out of here, and we could be off on our way. Sort of in March if we start to see a recovery. But I just think this is looking less and less likely. Potentially, we need to go a little bit lower first. So, yeah, let's see how this plays out. Obviously, we do have these, this big gap down here to 73, and obviously, if we look at our Futures chart, we can obviously see we still have the open gap here and it's coming in around about sort of 76. So futures usually trades at a about a little premium. Right now the premium's obviously getting eaten away, but you can see with about $500 premium. Obviously this is taking us down to around about sort of 76,000. If we go back to what we just looked at, we can see we were looking at potentially us coming down to about 75,000 that would come into the weekly 50. So, I think that is probably the line in the sand for the bull market. And obviously, this level here offers the best point of risk to return. It's where you can say, look, I'm capturing all the upside if I'm right, but if I'm wrong, I'm risking very, very little. So, I think as we sort of come closer to that, I think probably between 80K and 75K, I would be interested in starting to, sort of build a fresh Bitcoin long position, maybe looking at certain altcoins that have shown strength this cycle. The top ones right now seem to be Sui, Hype, Sonic, which was previously FTM, which is ticker S. So I think those are probably your three best bets in terms of alts that could potentially recover and make new all-time highs this cycle. I don't really see much else outside of that. I think the majority of altcoins probably have seen their cycle tops, and the best case scenario would be some sort of retest. And then if we look at our other chart here, yeah, we can just see. I mean, it's even clearer here. Just the structure break that we've had, and obviously we've just really got open air now down until to the low 80s, and like I say, on a weekly, we're looking at probably down to about 75. And that is assuming that we're still in a bull run. I mean, this all assumes that we're probably going to turn around and go higher later on this year. And I could be wrong on that. But if we just, try and plot a path of where I expect price to go over the next, call it into the middle of the year, because I really think, I really, really do think that this is going to be a more, prolonged correction. We're going to have to reset a lot of the hype, a lot of the sentiment, a lot of the hot air is going to have to come out this market. But yeah, I'm thinking. Obviously, we got this down at 75K. I can't get away from us sort of coming down to the 75K and closing the CME gap. But yeah, I mean, potentially we could see something like this happen. Coming into the low 80s, trying to bounce, back testing to around about sort of 85. Maybe we get a larger bounce. We go above 85. People think we're back. We're so back, and then I could see us coming, potentially to around about that, 75 level, and I think there'll be strong. I would think there'll be strong buying coming in at that level, and potentially we start to turn around and make our way back up higher over the summer and top out later on in the year. I mean, this is not really drawn to scale, but you can see here, what essentially we're looking at. Yeah, I do think this would be more drawn out, and potentially this would go into later on in the year. So yeah, I'm gonna redo this on the weekly just because it makes more sense for me to do that. But like I say, probably have a move down to around 80, some sort of bounce down close to around 75. Look to put in a low, maybe in the summer. Maybe this coincides with the Fed stopping quantitative tightening, and then the summer we start to sort of chop and rebuild, and really really sort of mark up higher into the end of the year, and potentially we come up to around sort of 120. Maybe we shoot higher. I mean, yeah, I'll be looking at something like this as my most likely scenario from now. Something like that. would seem about right to me. So I'm expecting further chop and potentially lower over the next couple of months. So this kind of takes us into April, then, recovery into the summer, potentially, the stock market starts to push on to new highs. And yeah, we see an all-time high coming later on in the year. That is like my best case scenario. Maybe we don't go that high. Maybe we just sort of wick through these highs and we do something a little bit similar. You can see similar pattern to the pattern we had in the last sort of bull market. I think you have to be very careful of not getting trapped up here. And I mean, from around 75, that would still be an extra, potentially another 50% to the upside from this low. I think that would be an area where, traders would look to de-risk. Potentially, we do go on higher. Um, let's see. But I'm expecting something probably to play out close to this. I mean, it's good to zoom out and look at things, unbiased and completely objectively. And yeah, I think what are the chances of us hitting this more aggressive trend line, which is obviously connecting the previous sort of bull market? I mean, yeah, potentially, potentially that could be what we see take place. But I think it's probably wise to be looking for a top around about this area here. This is probably a good area to de-risk. And I'm fully aware there's a lot of people out there talking a lot and sharing a lot of stuff about why you should be bullish, why a cycle top isn't in. I've heard people talking today about the pi cycle top indicator. We're not even close to that as an indicator. I don't think I've got it on here to share it. Maybe I'll cover that in the next video. But yeah, there's just nothing. There's no volume coming into the market. This is the concerning thing for me. There's just no volume coming into the market. I think we've probably got the volume here somewhere. I don't know if it's this one. Charts check on chain. Might be this. Let's have a look. No, it's not that. We've got the ETF flows as well here somewhere. I mean, we can see the ETFs are just offloading, like massively offloading. So that tells you if ETF investors are offloading, I mean, yeah, we've been saying these guys are probably likely to be more retail, but it just goes to show how concerned people are that actually we've seen a top. And until we see ETF starting to bid again, it's like I say, the risk is there to the downside. This is liquidity coming out of the market. A lot of these people would have accumulated above 100,000. They're now sat on losses. They're taking losses. They're probably going to walk away. They're probably not going to come back into the market. And, just like that, anytime too soon. It's probably going to take lower prices for them to get interested again. And price, looking like it's found a bit more of a local bottom. So, yeah, not looking good there. If we go on to our liquidation heat map as well, we can just see, where our liquidation levels are. On the more so on the downside, I think the risk of us going higher is pretty slim, but we can just give ourselves an idea. I mean, we do have, if they want to squeeze us, they could squeeze us up to 90,000 and take that liquidity. I think this would be a really, really good short opportunity, personally. If not, you can see we're starting to get liquidations build just under the lows here, coming down to around about sort of 85. Nothing major, but obviously if we continue to bleed off, expect those to get taken out. If we just go to the 1 month as well, it's just interesting to see where our longer term liquidations are going to be sat to. So in terms of a longer term perspective, we don't really have much in the way of liquidations until we get to around about sort of 72,000. So, you know, that's another, I guess, another thing for the bulls is that the market has, you know, it's really been flushed. That's not to say it still can't go lower because, you know, I think most of this is probably driven by spot selling. So, yeah, things are not looking too great right now, and yeah, you know, my honest outlook is we go lower, and until we can really get above some of these levels. I mean, we can take this one off. Uh, you know, this is where it really started to break down from this 96 and a half. You'd at least have to start closing back above, I'd say, sort of 92 to start to get bullish again, and then really you want to get back above 96. Like I say, this could take a long, long time. I think this will be the high for many, many months now, and you're looking to see, you know, the price sort of come down and just consolidate and start to rebuild and start to put in what will be sort of a low and then a higher low, and you know, potentially that looks something a bit more like that, you know. Um, you know, you're looking for that sort of structure to then, you know, get things more bullish again. So yeah, this is honestly how I see it playing out right now is something like this. And that means, you know, buying opportunities will be there if you're patient, if you can wait for things to come down to, you know, 80, 75, 80K, and potentially coming and interacting again with this 50-week moving average, then I expect this to be our strong support, which potentially holding that could be the catalyst for us then pushing on higher into the end of the year. But, you know, I think that obviously the bearish path would be that we lose this, we do something like this, we sort of come down here, we fail, we make a failed rally attempt, um, and then I think after that, you know, we're probably starting to mark down quite aggressively, and you know, we probably at least come down to our 200-week moving average, which is currently around 45,000. I mean, that would be pretty brutal. Do we stop there? I mean, what would that be as a drawdown on Bitcoin? That would be about 55% down. Um, you know, do we come all the way down to 30, closer to 30? You know, in a full bear market, that would be, you know, about 70%. Maybe that happens. Maybe MicroStrategy have to sell Bitcoin, and you know, we see a complete collapse. Bitcoin's dead. It's failed. No interest, and then we reaccumulate and we build again throughout 2026, and then 2027 we can start going to the upside again. I'm not too sure, and potentially, you know, that follows something like this. You know, potentially we have that other leg higher first, and then, you know, we come down to the end of 2026 down to those prices, and you know, we sort of follow this cycle that we've seen in the past, basically, where we have this bear market. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's remain optimistic for now. So, you know, I think that's Bitcoin well covered. Ethereum also showing weakness. I have no interest in stepping in on Ethereum right now. Obviously, the path we drew originally has played out very well here. So this is what we were expecting. Obviously, expecting us to come down to 2,200. This chart is starting to look very messy. So let's take a couple of these things off. But yeah, I'm thinking Ethereum. I mean, it's hard to see Bitcoin going down another, I think, to 75,000 on Bitcoin from here. It's another 14% or so. So it's hard to see Bitcoin going down another 14% and Ethereum not going down 14%. Obviously, Ethereum has shown a little bit of relative strength. It's not actually broken its low from the start of the month like Bitcoin has. But, for example, if Bitcoin went down 14%, I think we could expect Ethereum to go down at a faster rate of change. And we've got this sort of 1,880, 1,900. If it loses this level, we could even see a liquidation event down to around, I think, 1.5, 1.6. So, that's the risk, I'm afraid, on Ethereum here is that it continues to bleed out along with the rest of the market. If Bitcoin goes into, sort of a multi-month sort of downtrend or at least even sideways, then Ethereum likely struggles as well. It's hard to see Ethereum not testing these lows at 2,100 or even breaking down through these lows. Um, and I think this trend line, I mean, if we could come down to this trend line bounce and then get a higher low, then potentially, Ethereum would fulfill a lot of criteria in terms of flushing this level, probably making everybody super bearish. And then we could see like a really hated rally, an even more hated rally than the rally we've currently got. And obviously, this also coincides with what is a long-term trend line coming in. So, potentially Ethereum, it kind of moves more like this now. If we're expecting, more of a, just the whole of this just needs to move across, doesn't it? So obviously we've seen, this play out. Potentially we're gonna see this play out something like this now. And we're gonna come into that level and then, maybe we get some sort of bounce and again this is all going to get shifted across to the end of the year, I think. We do something more like this. Should probably just draw a fresh line, but yeah, maybe we do something like this, and Ethereum, that would make Ethereum coming back up and retesting prior sort of all-time highs. I don't see why it would stop without actually getting a full retest of prior all-time highs. So, potentially we see something like this for Ethereum from here, like lower before higher. Obviously, we might just come up to 4,000 and fail, and or maybe we just come up to this trend line. That was the trap, and we just come back to it, or we just, yeah, sort of wick the top of this range and fail. I don't really know, but I'm thinking to myself, this is probably the more likely path now for Ethereum. I will redraw this because this is just yeah, looking all a bit messy. Let's just try and this is what I should have done to start with, isn't it? You know, see something like this, bounce, higher low, move up. Yeah, maybe something like that on Ethereum is something that we do. Sort of bottoming early summer and starting to grind up for the rest of the year. So yeah, that's the Ethereum path. Solana. So Solana also looking in big trouble here, and it's very very hard for me to see Solana not coming back into this level. That's the 618. So potentially we come down there. I think we get a big bounce from there, and then the question is whether we go below that and we start to attack some of these lower levels. Maybe we come down to our sort of 200 moving average, which obviously should come up to around about $100. So potentially, we see some sort of sweep of that and then start to recover through the summer. Inverse head and shoulders starting to bounce up. And yeah, maybe we get back to $200, maybe a little bit more, but I'm not really seeing Solana doing much more than that, honestly. Basically, especially if we come all the way down here, maybe it gets back to its highs, but that would probably just be a lower high. Um, and then, you know, goes into the bear market. I think you're looking at probably something like that on Solana. So, like I say, with a lot of these, we will get bounces, but it's probably going to be lower before going higher. That's the thing to bear in mind. And maybe we don't even get back there. Maybe people are expecting that, and we just fall short, and it just fails. Doing something like that. I mean, for me, it would make sense to, if we sweep the low of this range and can hold it, we can get back to the high of this range over the next year. But even if you're buying down here, you're looking at, probably 100% move on Ethereum. If you're buying here, you're looking at about 100% move. Bitcoin, as we've already talked about, if you're buying here, back to the high, you're looking at about a 50% move. So, maybe Ethereum and Solana play a bit of catch up to Bitcoin over the end of the year. Obviously, if they only do what Bitcoin does, assuming that Bitcoin doesn't go higher, of course, Bitcoin could go a lot higher. From 75, it could go up to 150. That would be a 100% move. So maybe everything sort of moves up at the same sort of rate. We'll have to see. Very quick touch on the traditional markets. Dollar back within the range. Looks like it wants to break down further. So that is the hoping. But of course, there could be bounces. Maybe a bounce up in the dollar to retest this high puts us under more pressure on crypto in the short run. But I think by the end of this year, we're probably coming back down to around about 100. So let's just put a box on here. I don't know if we'll come here, but I think there's a good chance that we come down here over the next year. So that would be our target on the dollar if it continues to fall. Obviously, stocks wobbling, which is not helping crypto, but perhaps more of a concern. We can see that stocks are starting to bounce today. So we've got the S&P on a bit of a bounce. We've got the Nasdaq also on a bit of a bounce, finding some support, keeping sort of the uptrend in terms of the overall structure. And then in contrast, we've obviously got Bitcoin here, which is sort of falling today. It looks like it wants to go lower. So Bitcoin showing relative weakness compared to the stock market. And of course, there might be bounces coming up soon, but yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. I am honestly, I am expecting all things remaining constant. We do come down to 75. Potentially, we bounce a little bit sooner. But you know, if we start to do something like this, and if we start to say, for example, do something like this, and we then get back above, and we sort of consolidate sideways, then potentially that's going to be sort of the hopium here. But I think we need to see a catalyst to see something like this happen. We really need to see a big catalyst. And, in absence of that, it's very hard to see something like that happening. But, that is one scenario. One scenario is we do that. The other scenario is, this is more prolonged, this is more drawn out. We come down to lower levels. But you can see here that these patterns are, fairly similar. Obviously, they're just on different scales. So it depends. Do we get a quick recovery or do we get a sort of longer, slower recovery? And I think based on everything that's happened in the markets with, presidents launching meme coins and the amount of people that still, seem to be expecting something like, this to just happen, it's just I think there's too much opium. There's just you know, like I say, influencers saying they're loading up in crypto right here. It's not great. It's not great sentiment. It's and the way price is reacting to bullish news, or if there's anything about ETFs or governments buying or anything like that, it just seems to be a sell the news. I think for us to really go back to positive prices, it's going to need to be a shift in liquidity, and that's probably going to come with the Fed stopping QT, and that is not forecast until the summer. So, like I say, potentially, somewhere in May, we could start to see, signs of things bottoming out and recovering. Until then, protect capital, stay defensive, don't get sucked in. If we do bounce, just don't get sucked in. Don't try and make everything back in one go. There will be opportunities later on in this year to make really good profits. Unfortunately, those opportunities are not today, and we just need to be a little bit patient. Maybe stop looking at the charts so closely for a few days. I'm certainly guilty of spending all day looking at charts and not having much of a life outside of this. So that's a lesson for me too. But yeah, just protect your capital, stay safe, and yeah, I'll be back again soon. I'll probably do an update on. I want to do a bit more of a deeper update on Solana. So I'll probably do an isolated Solana video. I want to do a bit of an update on some of the Dino coins. XRP is in need of an update because I don't like what I'm seeing here, and I think if we get some decent bounces in some of these older tokens, I mean, you can see a pattern here where ever since the Trump election victory, that all of these coins, XRP, XLM, HBAR, they all just still up a massive amount. And if you're saying that Bitcoin is going to come and retrace its post-election pump, then if these things are going to follow, they're definitely going to fall the hardest. So in a way, I'm looking to hedge some of my spot Bitcoin with some shorts on some of these altcoins, but I'll actually do a separate video about that, as this one is already starting to go on far too long. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed the content, you probably haven't, but if you have, if you appreciate my honesty, please do think about smashing the like, hitting subscribe if not done so already. Like I say, there's plenty more to come, and have an amazing day. I'll talk to you all on the next one. GM.